people have you taken with you? That's where true success lies. And this gentleman has the experience of taking people with him. Over 20 years in the direct sales global expansion industry, acquired millions of customers, over $1 billion in sales in multiple countries, has trained and spoken in 16 countries and combined audience over 300,000 people. Mark my words, there will be books written about this Mr. Danny Bae. Mark my words, there will be books written about this gentleman. I see him, I said, he's an innovator. You know, once in a while you see a Walt Disney come along, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. Danny Bae is the Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, and Elon Musk of direct sales and network marketing. Make no mistake of that. And there will be books written about this gentleman. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let him take over this side of the presentation and explain the compensation plan, the vision of this company. Just excited for him to be here. Mr. Bae.
Hey, thank you very, very much, Mr. David Nieves, for having me on this call. You know, able to see dozens of people, many people all over the world, and we're just getting started. And this is actually the very first Zoom virtual conference presentation that we're having with this GPS opportunity. And to see Mr. David Nieves talk about GPS, the way that you know, he has presented, and talking about what is already happening in the industry, talking about what's going to happen in the VR, AR space, as well as e-learning, as well as e-commerce. It just gets me very, very excited to think about what's available now, but more importantly, the potential of what is about to come with GPS. Let me just briefly introduce myself. As David mentioned, I am the founder and the chairman of GPS Global Platform Solution. I live in Las Vegas. I'm in Las Vegas. Actually, just like many of us in America, I'm at home right now. And because I have 3 kids running around, downstairs is busy and my office is downstairs. So I'm actually in my son's room having this presentation and meeting many of you virtually like this. You know, 21 years ago, when I was just studying music, being just a student, I had a fortune came my way. A friend of mine invited me to a business meeting. Back then, Zoom didn't exist. Video calls didn't exist. Virtual reality didn't exist. Matter of fact, that's when internet was a new thing. And I went to this meeting, and during the presentation, they talked about 2 things that I've never heard before. And one was the word called e-commerce. And I'm sure many of you are very familiar with e-commerce today, but 21 years ago, majority of us were not familiar with e-commerce. And during the presentation, the gentleman said, do you realize in near future, people will be buying things on the internet? I remember the response from majority of the people around us. They said, this guy has lost his mind. Buying something on the internet without seeing it, without touching it, without experiencing, he lost his mind. You mean I'm gonna put my credit card information on the internet without even touching and experiencing the item prior to purchasing? He said, you lost your mind. I remember so many people saying that 20 years ago. But fast forward 20 years, we all are probably doing more e-commerce than physical commerce today. Many of you probably have dozens of boxes being delivered from eBay or Amazon or Groupon or, you know, whatever it may be. But 20 years ago, nobody would have thought it. You know, when I was in a few months ago, I went downstairs and I have 3 kids. My wife's cousin had 3 kids there. So 6 kids hanging out in my house living room. I went downstairs and I had an epiphany. I had an aha moment, and that's when I made me realize that we're already living in it. 6 kids were in my living room, but they were all on their iPads. And when they were all on their iPads, they were playing a game called Minecraft. In Minecraft, everybody builds their own home and living room. I didn't know that back then, but I was watching them play, and I realized all 6 of them, even though they were physically at my house, they were not hanging out at my house. They were hanging out in my youngest daughter, Caitlin's home, virtually, in Minecraft game. They were playing in her living room on their iPads, even though they were physically in my living room. You know, as I talk about virtual reality with many people say, man, that's like, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Virtual reality, I don't know if, you know, that will ever happen before I die. I don't know when that's going to happen. You know, people say, people think that it's the thing of the future, but the reality is we're already living it. When I saw those 6 kids hang out that way, I said, we're already living in it. We are just not recognizing. If they're 4 having dinner, or maybe sitting on a couch, daughter is talking to her friend on her cell phone, son is playing game, Fortnite with some other kids virtually, and dad may be watching sports game on his phone or TV, and everybody is there, but everybody's somewhere else virtually, already spending majority of their time, of their lives, virtually than they're in reality. And we just haven't categorized that yet. And only reason the experience is limited is because they simply do not have a virtual reality device for them to put it on over their head, because soon as they put that on, they could actually experience 360-degree full environment of wherever they're hanging out right now. I don't think anybody on this Zoom virtual meeting would deny the fact that if you could join the meeting from your home, like right now, and instead of watching it on your PC or phone screen, without you going anywhere, if you could experience this in 360, 3D, in a virtual environment, I think all of us would agree you would prefer that. When you're buying something on Amazon, if you could actually walk around the mall virtually and actually experience from a few different options instead of only having one option and purchase it, you would probably prefer it better than just seeing a picture and some reviews on whatever e-commerce platform you use today. That's what GPS is doing right now. And so people say, hey, how do you do this? Okay, let's talk about it. If you could go to the next slide for me, Mr. David. You know, basically what we're doing right now is creating an opportunity. And just like Mr. David Nieves talked about, we're distributing devices and we're providing VRLU, live practical personal development education. Why? Because take a look at this. Because we are setting ourselves up for what's called EBP Commerce, Experience Before Purchase Commerce Platform. What does that mean? In virtual reality, what if you experience everything before you could buy? 20 years ago when e-commerce started, people said, hey, how do you buy something before you experience it? We're doing it today. But if you could experience it before you purchase it again without ever leaving your home, that's what EBP Commerce is. GPS will be launching EBP Commerce platform second half of this year. Somebody say, why second half of this year? Well, because let's take a look. Amazon. Could Amazon have ever became who they are today if people didn't already have smartphones? If there were no such a thing as TV, would there be such a thing as a QVC today? All those things are only possible because they already have TVs, they already have smartphones. That's why QVC and Amazon type of e-commerce is available. Same thing. Today, if we had an EBP Commerce, nobody has the device. The first thing that has to have is the distribution of the device right here. And take a look, folks, if you really stop and think about it, how many people do you know that has an all-in-one device at home? Majority of us don't. How many of you believe in the future they will have it just like David talked about? Well, what if you become the person to connect them to having their first virtual reality device at home? Pico is the best display-focused virtual reality device there is out there in the marketplace. And by 100,000, 500,000, 1 million customers having VR devices and launching VR e-commerce platform where they're going out there and buying their watch, buying their clothes, buying their nutrition needs, buying their cosmetic products, buying their daily supply. And every time they do, you get paid. Just because you put the device in their home, just because you put the subscription of VRLU in their home, when VRLU e-commerce starts, without you ever knowing that they ever made a purchase happens, you still get paid. How would you like to get paid when people are doing EBP commerce from their home? Well, you could have that opportunity with GPS simply by giving them the Pico device. You providing this virtual reality device and putting in their household. And you get them on the subscription of VRLU that provides personal development, leadership. I mean, Major League Baseball player, former NBA player, chef to actor to sales and leadership. Matter of fact, this week we're adding golf lessons on there. So many different contents available, and you get them as a subscriber. And if they're on there, every time they go out there and purchase through EVP Commerce, you're going to get paid. Let's talk about that. Let's go to the next slide. So here's what's really exciting. Oh, somebody was asking me, what else could you do? Well, this is something that just happened last week. Mr. John, one of our leaders, Mr. John Sangpil, who's an incredible entrepreneur. Do you see what's happening there? They're in a boardroom. They're in a virtual boardroom with a dozen people having a meeting together as an avatar. And one screen shows a PowerPoint. The other screen shows whatever video you want to play. And if you click next, you could actually even see a little bit of the video they were playing, which they were kind of playing a music video before they were getting started. But that could literally, this was just something that just already happened a few days ago. The only reason you haven't experienced that is because you don't have a VR device. That's all it is. Here's a question for you. Would your homeschooling with your kids be better if right now they could put VR devices on and they could be in a virtual class just like that? Of course it would be. That technology already exists. But the only thing that's missing is the fact that people don't have VR devices. Matter of fact, 12 hours ago, today in Korea, on the news, they were talking about how because of this pandemic, because of COVID-19 health crisis, they believe that VR technology and the need and the utilization of VR technology will move up by years. Because in Korea, Hyundai, they just announced a new design for one of their vehicles. And you know how they did a launch show? Usually they will do a big launch show. Usually they will have a bunch of people come through a dealership. Not this time. They just announced the video. They just announced a virtual reality production video of their brand new model car that they just decided to roll out. And because people cannot get together, they had a very success by simply giving people a chance to tour the car, experience the car virtually, not in person. And because it was virtual, folks, it wasn't doing any less experience. It was giving them much more experience than anything they've ever done physically. It's already happening right now. Real estate tours, if you go to the website for many real estate companies already have virtual tour, but they're looking at it on their phone and it's limited. If they had VR glasses, they could experience that by walking literally through the house virtually. That's EVP Commerce. That's what we're doing here, but it all starts, just like I mentioned, without smartphones and smart TVs, there's no QVC on Amazon. The very first thing we do right now is we will become one of the largest and the fastest and the most productive and most successful distribution channel for VR headset in America. Matter of fact, this device, Pico, nobody else is selling in America right now. We're the very first company to market this to consumers directly, and it is happening right now. So if you could go to the next slide, let's talk a little bit about our compensation plan, our influencer benefits. You become a GPS influencer with simply